maiden speech, Janet Daby.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to speak in this debate. I'm both humbled and very proud to be here. I thank my constituents in Lewisham East for giving me this opportunity, as well as my family and my wonderful husband for their patience and understanding over the last few months. And continued patience, probably. I will respect tradition by thanking two of my predecessors, Bridget Prentice and Heidi Alexander. The unwavering support and encouragement I've had from these phenomenal women amplifies the adage, lift as you climb. Bridget was the MP for Lewisham East for 18 years, from 1992 to 2010. She is still a resident, well respected and well known for her community spirit, straight talking, humour. And I thank Bridget for her belief in me. Of course, I wish to pay tribute to my predecessor, Heidi Alexander. She was, as you know, an incredibly hard-working, approachable and dedicated advocate here. She was key to the community campaign that saved Lewisham Hospital A&E services, and as Shadow Secretary of State for Health, she was vocal in the junior doctors' dispute. She was also passionate and outspoken about the need for us to stay in the single market, a view shared by many in Lewisham, where 70% of us voted to remain, and we in Lewisham East will not tolerate a hard Brexit. I thank Heidi for her dedication as a public servant, and I'm sure you will join me in wishing her well in her new role as Deputy Mayor for London Transport. And no doubt I will soon be in contact with her about improvements to Lewisham transport system. As for me, when I was a young child and even a young adult, I never imagined that I would become a local councillor, and certainly not an MP. It was quite possibly the furthest thing from my mind. And having grown up with a mum and her endless capacity for compassion and kindness, she gave us children a strong sense of social justice. And I was keenly aware from an early age of the impact of prejudice and discrimination on people around me. I was aware that while many resilient Black, Asian and minority ethnic people did challenge those who sought to oppress them, there were others who learnt how to cope with discrimination rather than to complain. They learnt to suffer rather than to speak out. And the Windrush scandal is the latest and most shocking cruelty inflicted upon us. I am proud, as a daughter of the Windrush generation and as a Labour MP, that one of the voices raised against that legislation was that of my party leader. Although I grew up in a single-parent family, my father was never far away, and I clearly remember my Uncle Clifton, my late Uncle Lass and Uncle Sam excitedly discussing politics during family visits. As a child, it was a world I knew little about, but it intrigued me, and I did my best to engage with their conversations. I intend to ensure that my contributions here are as enthusiastic and fearless and rather better informed than I was as a child. I'm so honoured to represent Lewisham East, my home of 22 years, because it is the friendliest, most energetic and multicultural community you could hope for. We have it all, from grand mansions to compact urban flats, from leafy expanses to concrete labyrinths. We have the best street parties in London. And indeed, maybe the country. But you can prove me wrong on that if you wish to. We have a strong community spirit, and our valued civic organisations such as Eco Communities, Preschool Alliance, Ubuntu and Youth First demonstrate this. We are also fortunate to have the Interfaith Walk of Peace and the Peace of Cape movement, which work to make Lewisham East safer and enhance cohesion. That said, years of austerity has meant that many people live hand to mouth. And having set up a food project in 2013 as a local councillor with the local community, I know this only too well. I know someone who has 3 part-time jobs. He works himself to the bone, but still he has to visit the food bank so that he can feed himself and his family. What he and our constituencies are owed, at the very least, is the real living wage, as defined by the Living Wage Foundation. instead our constituents got the much lower national living wage based on political calculations.
That's right.
The quality of jobs available is a serious issue. As a Unison trade unionist and former public sector worker, I believe in fair pay and proper terms and conditions. I understand that decisions at the moment is being made about whether to abolish the widely used and highly exploitative employment contracts that allow for agency workers to be underpaid for their labour. We need to do the right thing and abolish them. And I applaud the CWU's campaign on this issue. Low pay and insecure jobs mean that many of my constituents are spiralling into debt, and they cannot hope to pay their rocketing private rents. The people of Lewisham East are crying out for social housing, and they need it now if we are to stop the number of families being forced out of the area by the housing crisis. As for young people, I am deeply troubled by the multiple stops and stop and searches that innocent young men, especially black men, are subjected to. This can have a brutal impact on their mental health and well-being, and is often something that is not considered. Our young people don't just need a hope for the future, they need tangible change, and I will do what I can do to address the stop and search issue. I am saddened and outraged that in 2018, some young women in Lewisham East, but this isn't just Lewisham East, will skip school because their families cannot afford sanitary products. Across the UK, it is estimated 137,000 girls missed school last year because of this type of poverty. I absolutely support moves for free, universal access to sanitary products. And I want to use the privilege of having a voice in this chamber to help reduce poverty, improve health, raise educational outcomes and clean up the toxic air that blights part of Lewisham East. Some might see this as optimism, or me being optimistic for one MP and her constituents. But as the anthropologist Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. On this, I believe that when we come up against a mountain to overcome, we need others to help us make the climb, as we cannot do this alone. Mr. Speaker, at times it has felt overwhelming coming into this great establishment. But I have been met with such hospitality by you, parliamentarians on both sides, and the superb staff in both houses. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vernon Coker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have to say to my honourable friend from Lewisham East, what an amazing privilege it is to follow a speech of that quality. But also, can I say, not only that quality, but I thought what shone through as well, Mr. Speaker, was the absolute dignity of my honourable friend. And she will be an absolute amazing addition to our Parliament and to the government of this country. And through what she said, it was clear that she will be an advocate for her own local people on poverty, on inequality, on tackling health. But above all, she'll also be, as well as locally, she will be a national advocate for the things that we in the Labour Party stand for, but above all stand up against prejudice and discrimination and show what determination can achieve. It's an amazing privilege and honour to follow my honourable friend, and I wish her all the luck in the future. Can I